Hello, my name is Kaiso Ari, and welcome to my very first episode of a RPG Maker MV tutorial. Now, this has been something I've kind of wanted to do for some time now, and I know that there's other RPG Maker MV tutorials that are out there, but I kind of wanted to start my own, because, some people convey information differently than others, and sometimes you may get more helpful information from other people as opposed to just one source. So, welcome to my RPG Maker tutorial. Now, if you're new to RPG Maker, welcome. But if you've used RPG Maker before and you've taken a break and you're just coming back and you wanted to relearn some new things, welcome back. Alright, so before we actually get started, what is RPG Maker? RPG Maker is a tool or a program, per se, to actually make RPGs. But you don't have to actually use it to make RPGs. You can use it to basically make any particular game that you want. Now, it does require a little bit of manpower and a little bit of coding, but you can, basically make anything out of RPG Maker. Within reason, of course. I mean, you can't make like a first-person shooter from it. If you could, that'd be pretty awesome, but that's not what RPG Maker is all about. So, you're going to realize that, RPG Maker is going to cost you quite a bit of money if you haven't already purchased it already. But if you are interested in RPG Maker, there is a 30-day free trial that you can actually try, and you can try it before you buy it. And if this is something that you find yourself wanting to use, then hey, $80 can go a long way, and sometimes that $80 can actually multiply, because RPG Maker can also be used to publish games commercially, so you can actually sell your games on either Steam or GameVolt. I think that's GameVolt, and other sites that actually that allows you to sell games. Do bear in mind though that Steam is kind of oversaturated with RPG Maker games, so user mileage may vary on RPG Maker. But if you just want to use it to make, get yourself familiar with game design, then RPG Maker is a really easy tool to pretty much get yourself acquainted with RPG Maker, or with game design. I'm sorry. Alright, so you have RPG Maker and you have it open. And right now you're greeted with a blank screen. Now, your screen may not be as, not like mine. You can actually change this if you don't like the bright style by going up to Tools and then going down to Options. And here you can change the transparency color, and that basically is what your tiles are going to look like. You have your map grid show, and this is where you can change your UI theme here. So yours is probably going to be sitting at default, which will, that's a huge contrast, which looks like that. And you also have the dark theme, which is what I want. That's something, a lot more easier on the eyes. And then you have these really weird oddity ones, like high contrast white, which looks very bizarre. And then high contrast black, which looks just as equally bizarre. But we're going to go back to dark theme because, it's a theme that I prefer, and it's much easier on the eyes for me. Though people may not agree, so to each their own. And then you also have your object selector here. Now this all depends on how you want to go by it. I really can't explain this. This is something that you're going to need to experiment on your own. It's very hard to explain on how that, or you can just hover over this right here, which will actually tell you what it actually does for you. So it optimized for less than 100 items, optimized for hundreds of objects that's extended, and then smart chooses based on the amount of objects automatically, and of course. But, this is usually something I usually like to mess with, get myself kind of familiar with it. And then you also have the help options here, your contents, your tutorial, which actually does have a tutorial. I haven't tried it yet, though, but I hear that it actually kind of helps. And you'll notice that these other options are blank because we haven't started a project yet. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go up to File, and we're going to go ahead and choose New Project. Now here you have several options to optimize your project in any particular way that you want. Now the name under here is actually going to be the folder name of your project. And you can name that whatever you want. If you name the folder project, it will also name the game title as well. The name is empty. We can't have an empty name, but for the simplicity of this, we're just going to leave it project 1. Now for the game title, even though that you name the folder the game title as well, you can actually change the game title if you don't want your game title to be named project 1. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you want it to be project 2 instead of project 1. But you can also change the game title at any time that you want, and I will show you how to do that once we get everything initiated. Now for the location here, this will be where your game is actually going to be stored. As for me, I usually have any particular new project that I make on the desktop because it's easier for me to find. I'm not having to go through and look through my folders or different directories on my computer just to see if I can find my project somewhere. And it's just generally easier for me if I need to make backups. So if something were to happen, I have a backup where I can easily restore it back to its rightful place. Alright, so once when you actually get everything all set up to what you want, we're going to go ahead and click OK. And what it's going to do is it's going to copy some default files for us to use on our very first game. Now, you're not entirely forced to use the default set, but this actually saves us from having to actually go and look for assets for ourselves. So it's very generous of them to actually supply us with some default assets to use. Okay, so now we are in an empty field. So there's really not a whole lot going on as of right now. So let's actually go ahead and give our game a test run. Now, you can either go up here to the play button, which will initiate a playtest. Playtesting is very important for any game developer because playtesting your game can actually help you look for bugs, fix any oddities that may be wrong, or just to see how the project's coming along. Now, you can either press this play button up here, or you can press F12 on your keyboard to initiate the playtest of your game. So let's go ahead and just do that right now, just to, check it out and see what we got. Okay, you're going to be greeted with a screen here, and I turned my volume down. So I think the first thing that you're probably going to want to do is adjust the volume to your liking. So for this, we're just going to go ahead and turn everything down because that's how it is. And to actually navigate the menu here, you use the arrow keys, press enter to enter into your menus, press the escape key to exit back out of menus, and I think you can't press the escape key to exit your project. There used to be an exit in previous RPG makers. There's usually an exit option here, but you're going to have to add that yourself either through a plugin or through events somehow. So let's go ahead and start up a new game, and let's take a look at what we got. Now, as of right now, there's nothing for us here. So to move around, we can use the arrow keys, and we can also use the number pad as well. And we can also use the mouse, as that this new engine also had mobile devices in mind as well. So you can actually export these games out onto Android or iOS, so people on mobile devices can actually play your game. Or if people don't want to use, the keyboard, you can also use a mouse. Okay, pressing the escape key will bring up our menu here. Very generic JRPG style menu here, very reminiscent of Final Fantasy. As you can see here, just get yourself a little familiar with what you have at your disposal. And you can also change the options here as well. You can save the game here, and you can also, end the game the way like this. Alright, so let's go ahead and just close the project out. So, as of right now, we have nothing. There's nothing for us to actually look at. We're running around in an empty field. Let's go ahead and add some stuff. So, what we're going to do is that we're just going to go ahead and get familiar with the tools. First is the pencil tool, the very common tool that we're going to be using quite often. So let's go ahead and choose a tile. So we can choose any tile here. And let's go ahead and actually kind of make something a little interesting. So basically just getting ourselves familiar with okay, we're gonna be kind of like on the side of an ocean here. Let's put some trees down here, so we got a little foresty area here. And pretty much you're just getting yourself familiar with how the tiles work. Now with this here, whenever you choose a tile, if you hold down the left mouse button, you can actually be able to add multiple tiles. And some tiles actually have auto tiles here, so you can actually see that these trees here will connect together and make more trees. Or you can just have single trees all over the place. Now if you find that you have made a mistake, you can actually do the undo. This is the undo button here, so you can actually do this multiple times. I'm not entirely sure how many times you can actually do that. Okay, I guess no, wait a minute. I lied. There's actually multiple undos here. So if you find that you may have made a mistake, you can actually use the undo key. Alternatively, you can also right click onto the map to copy a tile like this grass tile here and just place it onto the map to erase tiles that you no longer want. That's a couple of ways you can actually do that. So let's go ahead and put those trees back there here. It's kind of not how I remember it, but yeah, that's good. And let's go ahead and put like a small town here, like up there. You know, maybe a castle town down there. Let's be a little creative here. Let's actually add like a river flowing through. Yeah, there we go. That's actually pretty cool. And then we gotta have a bridge to get to the other side somehow. Okay. Let's go ahead and add some hills up here. Probably too many hills. And then maybe a couple of mountains right there along the ocean side. And you know, just gotta have fun with it. You just get yourself familiar. All right, so now we actually have, you know, a map ready. So let's go ahead and actually explore the map a little bit. And before we test play, it's also going to ask us to save it. So we're going to go ahead and save it to get ourselves, you know, to run around on the map. So let's go ahead and go to new game again, and voila, there we go. We can move around and, you know, do things. Now you are going to notice some oddities here. We can walk over these tiles here, but nothing is happening. You know, we want to go into that castle. We want to go into this town. There's really nothing that we can actually do right now because we haven't set any events for it. So let's go ahead and close that out, and we'll go ahead and put some events up. So let's go ahead and set us up something here. But before we actually put up an event, we actually got to make a new map. So right now, as you can look down here at Project 2 or our game name, we actually have, you know, our current map that we're on right now. So we want to go ahead and add, I don't know, maybe a town for this particular area here up here. So let's go ahead, right click onto the map tree here, and we're going to go ahead and click new, or we can press enter to make a new map. Now here, this is where we're going to have our map settings. So we can name the map whatever we want. We can have a display name, so we can say town. The tile set that we're going to be using, and since this is a town, we're actually going to change the tile sets from the overworld, which is what we're using right now, but we're in a town, so we're going to change it to outside. Now we also have the scroll type here, which will actually make the map scroll indefinitely toward any particular, you know, any particular X or Y axis. But since this is a town, we don't really need that. You can either scroll, well, if you wanted to, you could, if you really wanted to. You can scroll vertically, which means you can go, it'll scroll indefinitely up and down, horizontally left and right, and both, it's exactly what it says. And here we also have autoplay BGM. Here you can actually choose a theme for your town here. Let's see. Oh wait, I have to. Okay, well, you're gonna have to test that out on your own. As that it's kind of a little finicky on my end here. There's a whole bunch of things here, but we're not gonna get into it. For the width, this actually depends on, how big you actually want the map. It could be 17 tiles wide to 13 tiles high, or you can have, any particular tiles that you want. So once when you actually have everything set up, just go ahead and click OK, and it'll open up a brand new map. So here we actually have an empty map. So let's actually go ahead and, get ourselves familiar with other tools, because we haven't gotten to those yet. So the rectangular tool here, which allows us to draw tiles in a rectangle. So we can actually be able to choose this grass tile here, or a sand tile, or this tile over here. It depends on whatever tile that you like. But we're going to go with this grass tile here, and what we're going to do is that we're going to hold the right or the left mouse button, and we're going to drag. And there we go. We got ourselves a rectangle. Same thing here. We have the ellipsis tool as well, which allows us to be able to draw a circular set of tiles here. So we can actually have ourselves a circle tile if we want to. And we also have the fill, or the flood fill tool here, which will allows us to be able to fill any particular empty space that does not have a tile occupying it. So we can just click anywhere on the map. Boom. There we go. Instant grass. And then we also have the shadow pen, which allows us to be able to add shadows to any particular tile that we want. But sometimes I feel that this doesn't work so well. You can draw shadows here, and then you just draw on top of the shadows to get rid of them. Very easy way to, kind of add a little bit of depth, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it works well. It takes a little bit of trial and error for it to work. Okay, so now we got ourselves a, another empty field of grass. So let's go ahead and kind of add some houses here. Fun note, actually, this is something I also didn't explain, that if you actually hold the left mouse button and drag it, you can actually select multiple tiles at once. So let's just say that we want this big old monster over here for some reason, because, why not? We can actually do that. But we're not going to do that, but that's just something to, like this tent. Instead of actually having to go and pick it one at a time and then trying to make sure that we got it in the right place, we can just go ahead and just drag the entire tile and do it like that. Very easy, very simple. Same thing here. If you also right click on a tile here and select it, this will actually select a tile that has already been painted onto the canvas. So we can actually have multiple tents if we wanted to, and we could even put them over, tiles like that, but it's going to look like a mess. To actually kind of make it look like a mess, I actually just hold down one of the shift keys. I usually hold down left shift here. Okay, sometimes it kind of works. Oh, that's also because that we already have these tiles copied here, which is why it won't work. So to actually alleviate that, we're going to have to actually go over here and pick this tile here and hold down the shift button, which will allow us to be able to paint over these tiles without it, doing, well, actually no. That is, okay, kind of maybe like that. So, okay, ignore what I said. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Mileage is, varied. It all depends on how you can use it. We can probably get into that a little bit more, but let's go ahead and, Well, you can actually make your own map, but that's how you actually make your own maps, or, add a new map. But let's go ahead and get rid of this map here. So you can click that and click the delete button, or you can just right click and just click delete, and we'll do that. So let's just say that you don't want to make a map and you want to go ahead and, load one up. You can actually load up pre-generated maps that have already been made, so we have world maps here. You can actually preview them before you decide to apply them. Some of them actually look pretty good, and will definitely give you a foothold and give you a good indication on actually how to make a map. So we got a normal town, a forest town, an abandoned town, snow town, floating temple, mining city, what have you. So let's go ahead and just actually, load up a map. Okay, there we go. We actually have our own map. This can actually be able to give you, a bit of inspiration on how to, create a map. So we actually already have a map here, so let's go ahead and save that. Now, before you actually decide to go and check that out, we're going to need to set up an event to, get into that. So what we're going to do is that, if we're not already on the map editing mode here, we're going to go over here and go to the event tile here. Now here, just double click on a tile here. You can name the event whatever you want. I highly recommend that you name the events, so we're going to name this Town 1 event. Click apply, and you think that's probably going to be it, but that's not what's going to be it. Over here in the contents area, we're going to go ahead and add an event to allow us to be able to go into that town. So we're going to go ahead and double click, and you will be greeted with something that may kind of blow your mind or kind of make you a little stupid for a little bit, and you probably won't know exactly what to do. And that's okay. Some of these will actually explain to you what they do, like the show text. It opens up a message window to display text, show choices, input a number, select an item, show scrolling text, what have you. And they are all categorized. Categorized? I can English well. Alright, so we got messages, parties, actors, game progressions, flowcharts, movements, characters, timing, screens, pictures, audios, and videos, scene control, maps, system settings, battles, and advanced. But what we're actually going to do is that we need to be able to get into that other town somehow. So let's go ahead and click transfer player, because this is, well, it's pretty obvious. It changes the current location of the player used only on the map screen. And what we're going to do is that we're going to, go from a different location. So we're going to go to our normal town area here, and we're going to put ourselves right there. And we can retain our direction. So if we went up into there, retaining the direction, or the direction retained, basically if you enter the map into any particular direction, it will retain the direction that the character is facing. And it would look kind of odd coming into the town and then you're facing left or right or down. So we're going into town, so we're going to go ahead and change our direction to up. Now the fade here, there's it usually depends on how you want to go about doing it. You can fade to black, which will fade the screen to black, fade to white, which will fade the screen to white, and then you have none. This is all user preference to you. Use that how you feel. And you also have destination with variables, which we won't get into right now. We will get into that into a much later tutorial. Okay, so now we actually have an event that will allow us to be able to enter the town. So let's go ahead and click apply, and we'll go ahead and save our game, of course, and we're going to give it a shot. We're going to actually see if we can get into that town. So let's go to new game. And let's... That's right. There's one other thing I forgot to mention. With these events, if you're actually doing it, by hand, I forgot that you have to actually set your triggers for your events. So we're actually going to be learning something here. Now you may have thought that, made an event, I can actually go into the town. Why is it not working? Because we didn't set the trigger right. And that was something that I completely overlooked. So whenever we go down here, we can go to the trigger action here. So right now it's the action button, meaning that, and I don't like the fact that okay, there we go. If you hover over the drop down menu here, it'll actually tell you of what the triggers does. So the action button starts when the player has pressed the action button, meaning enter or space, or the Z key. They say Z, but whatever. Player touch. It's an addition to the above, but starts when the player touches the event. Event touch. It's like player touch, but it only starts when the event touches the player. And then you have auto run, which will, starts when the event appears, and then parallel, which runs cynically while the event is present. But what we're actually going to do is that we're going to change it to event touch. We'll go ahead and click apply, and then we're going to go ahead and click OK. So now, hopefully, that has fixed our little issue that we may have had upon going to using the event that we just had. Now, I'm actually just going to go ahead and save this here because why not? Thank you for that, GeForce. So now, hopefully, we are in our new town. And, we could run around the new town and all that stuff. So there we go. And to get back into the actual other map area here, we just do the exact opposite here. Except this time, we're actually going to take a little bit of a shortcut. So what we did was I guess we would say the hard way or the default way of actually setting up an event for transfers and all that stuff. So actually what we're going to do now is that we're going to go ahead and pick a spot here. So we're going to go ahead and pick the center tile here to exit out of town. So we're going to go ahead and right click, and we have more options. Here we actually, of course, we can make a brand new event. We can find an event that we have named, and it can be displayed on any particular map that we want, but we'll get into that much later. We're actually going to go to quick event creation, and we're going to do a transfer, which will automatically make the event for us. The only thing that we have to do is specify a location and which direction that we're going to be facing out of. And there you go. This actually will save you a lot of time to do that as well, but it's also a good idea to get yourself familiarized with actually making your own events like we have up here. And there's a good reason why I did that. So let's go ahead and actually save the game once again and give it another test run. Go ahead and click continue because we can do that. And now we can actually test it out. Thank you for that. And there we go. We basically got something working. We got ourselves a map that we can actually walk around in, and we also learned how to create a new map, and as well as load up preset maps as well. And we also learned how to create an event within the actual first 30 minutes to an hour that we've actually been with RPG Maker. And I believe that's going to wrap it up for now. Before I go, I want to go ahead and just make it known that this is going to be one of many of my RPG Maker MV tutorials. I know that there's other RPG Maker tutorials that are out there that are a little bit more informative or, a lot better than mine. But I am starting out. This is something that I wanted to do for quite some time. And I also want to make a note that anytime that you make progress in your game, always save it. It's a good general rule of thumb. Always save your projects as you're doing your game. You may never know what may happen. It's also a good idea to back up your projects whenever you can. So you can go up here to your game, click open folder, which will actually take you to the folder that you have created to its destination. So if you didn't save it to your desktop, it'll probably take you to somewhere else. I saved my projects to my desktop. You can either take all these, copy them, and put them into another area where you can safely back them up, or you can take the entire folder itself and well, actually, let's just go back it out to the desktop here. Or you can just take the entire folder itself and copy it and put it somewhere where you know you can find it. So that'll actually end the very first episode of my RPG Maker tutorial series. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watching this. I'm sorry if it's a little long or if I'm a little long-winded, excuse me. And hopefully we can get into a little bit more stuff down the road. I just want to see how people think of this tutorial, if it's informative to newcomers or people who are returning from a long hiatus from RPG Maker, or have been using older versions of RPG Maker and want to get to newer versions of RPG Maker. Alright, we'll get into a little bit more stuff in the next episode, like getting into the database and learning how plugins work, and how to import our own assets into RPG Maker. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Kaiso Ari, and I hope that y'all have a good night. Bye.